It's the only podcast that broadcasts 438 miles between each other. You're listening to the fifth quarter podcast on a cool October afternoon. This is episode 28 overall, episode 8 in the second season. I am George Koff here from College Station. Glad to have you with us with our co host and my good friend Desmond McLaughlin and Lubbock. Desmond, how are you doing on this Thursday, October the 17th?
Well, George, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I can't really complain about anything today so far.
Well, it is a very special occasion here as my birthday is coming up on this Saturday's week of college football. So that's always good and exciting. And for those of you wondering, yes, I did get my Wyoming shirt in the mail, so we are repping the Cowboys this week for that small school. But Desmond, let's before we get to our small schools, let's get into the big boys. You ready?
I'm ready, George. Let's get this.
All right. So last week, the biggest of the boys came to College Station, and despite a pretty good first quarter, we'll say a first quarter that was surprising to many, including myself. I really thought that A&M might have had had an opportunity to shock the world and maybe come out 14-7 lead. Instead, it was a 14-7 lead at the end of the first quarter in Bama's favor. But Desmond, what did you like from what A&M did early? Not necessarily late, but early.
Well, George, definitely containing Alabama to the least points. That's really good. They did a good job containing Tua on the ground. I feel like they did a pretty good job containing their running game. Of course, Tua's going to put up his stats. He probably had about almost 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. But it wasn't, considering that Alabama is number one and probably the best team in college football, it wasn't too bad. It could have been worse, is what I'm saying. And also, did A&M even give up a turnover all game?
So the turnover margin was 0 because A&M did get a pick off Tua threw his first interception.
Did they fumble? Did A&M fumble?
A&M did fumble to Isaiah Spiller. That's his third fumble in as many games. So yeah, you limited the amount of turnovers. We always say that if you can not turn over the football and you play on all three phases, you can do well against Bama, and A&M did that on turnovers.
But now 24-30. Okay, sorry. No, keep going.
Whereas they really didn't do well on all three phases. We'll get to special teams in a second. But what were you going to mention about the halftime lead?
I said 24-13 against Alabama. That's fairly close. I'm not saying like that's not where you want to be, but I've seen Bama be like 35-0. Against some teams.
Correct. And one of the things that Jimbo mentioned in his halftime interview, I went back and watched it later, was that, look, we are doing things the way we want to do them. We're doing them right. We're keeping, we got to contain to them more. We got to get pressure on the quarterback. We've got to find a way into that, pressuring their offensive line. But overall, we just got to readjust. We got to come out and play our brand of football. And you know what? They did that in the first half. In the second half, Bama just kind of dominated. I think Bama outscored A&M 23-15 in the second half. So you keep it close both halves, and of course a 19-point loss is not too bad. It's not 20, and it's not it's not a touchdown, but it's still not bad. And I was going to mention, we said you have to have no turnovers and you have to be good on all three phases. Special teams disappointed me. I've never been more disappointed in the special teams. That's one of the things the last few years A&M, you could say, is reliable on that. Braden Mann is a good punter. Seth Small and LaCamera previously good kicking group, and you've had good coverage teams with even just being able to get down there, but all that just went out the window on Saturday afternoon. All of a sudden, we're giving Bama 30, 40 yards on punt and kick return. So instead of starting at their own 30, they're starting on our 45. It's like you
Yeah.
can't expect to win a football game if you're giving 30 yards of field position, and that's what it came down to. A&M was starting on their own 27, I think is what it was. The average starting was their own 27, and Bama's average start was their own 40, 45-yard line, I think it was, something like that. You just can't have that. Yes, we forced Bama to punt twice, which was, I'll tell you what, when we forced them to punt the first time, the stadium, which was still, the crowd was still there, they got excited because, you did something, you made Bama not have to score. They had to punt, they had to give the ball away. Um, but overall, I mean, I could have been more upset, but it's Bama. You're dropped to 3-3. It's this, halfway through the season. It's now you've reached the point of the season where these next few games, this next stretch is going to make or break. And honestly,
Yeah.
I think A&M could go 5-1 down the stretch. That's not too big of a possibility. That's that's a win over either Georgia or LSU, and it's a loss to either Georgia or LSU. I think that would put yourself at 8-4 on the year, which is manageable, especially with the schedule. I think A&M, when they head to Ole Miss this week, they have every chance in the world to just play their brand of football, to play Aggie football. And Jimbo mentioned it, that this week has been the best week of practice thus far. That's enough for me. I've got the Aggies by 17. I think that's maybe a lot, but Mississippi, Ole Miss has really not been bad. Ole Miss has kind of been up and down. So I'll take the Aggies by 17. Desmond, what do you got?
I just want to say, I don't know if this isn't ESPN confirmed. I kind of briefly searched this, but I'm pretty sure props to Aggie defense because I'm pretty sure that's the lowest passing percentage of Tua all season.
I
So
believe
good job
that's
for
correct as well. Yeah, I believe that's correct.
that. I agree. I think A&M's gonna win this game. I actually have them winning by 7. I believe it'll be 24-17. But I do see them coming back, especially playing against a hard team like Alabama, transitioning to a not so good team as Ole Miss. Miss. And then,
That's one of the things you have to be worried about is the Alabama hangover. Is every time we've seen the teams who they've finished playing Alabama, they always seem to struggle early on, and then they get into their groove. I think because of the way we played Alabama and the way that we just had that kind of rhythm, I don't think that's going to affect us too much. And I wouldn't, if Jimbo's saying this is the best week of practice he's seen this season, I'm not too worried. And Desmond, your prediction is right on line with the spread. The Aggies are a touchdown favorite and that game will be on SEC Network at 6:30 p.m. from Oxford, Mississippi. All right, Desmond, let's move forward to the game that has had probably the most controversy this week. Texas Tech and Baylor in Waco. Baylor was able to sneak out a double overtime victory by 3 over the Red Raiders. But the big storyline was the quote-unquote illegal snap fumble that the Baylor Bears committed, in which they ruled that it was an illegal snap and therefore the ball would not be a turnover. Desmond, what are your thoughts, or what was going through your head in that, and going back and looking at the replay?
Well, when I first saw the fumble, I was honestly confused. We had got the ball. They were saying it's a fumble. And I was honestly confused what was going on. It's like, what's going on? And then ref was like, illegal snap. I was like, okay, because you really couldn't see up close. All I could see is that the ball was on the ground.
Correct.
And Baylor didn't look too scared, but we were saying we had the ball. Illegal snap. I was like, all right. And then they showed the replay, and I was like, hold up. How is that an illegal snap? And then, but I was like, okay, well, I guess if no one's saying anything, and then the announcers were like, I don't agree with that call, and I was like, yeah, I don't agree with the call. And then the fact is that how sometimes they bring out the head of the officials to clarify a call.
Correct.
They go back to the studio.
Or whatever,
Even he said it was a missed call and that he doesn't believe it was an illegal snap. It was a fumble, and it was. And I'm not saying I'm saying that we would have had it. Because it was overtime. They had the ball first, and we had the ball second for overtime. So, all we would have needed was a field goal. If we had that fumble, a field goal to win the game.
Correct.
And that if we would have sealed that, we would have had the ball, and just a field goal to win the game, which I believe we would have done. But how the story ends up, and I was just mad because if it was like a missed pass interference or something, I'm like, oh, okay, but the fact that it was like an easy call that ever I could see, like it was obviously a fumble, like, and they didn't even review it. Like the next, like 3 plays later, or no, like the next overtime, Baylor like got like a 30-yard gain, and he like went to the 2-yard line, and they reviewed that play, even though he clearly like, didn't make it inside the end zone, but they didn't even review that play. They didn't even look at it.
I think I'm with you. I think officiating has just been poor, whether it be in the NFL, whether it be in college. The last few weeks, it's just been poor. I mean, I don't know what is going on, but when your AD, when your athletic director has to come out and
he got fined,
and he makes all these claims, and then he gets a $25,000 fine because he's speaking out on how we need to change officiating. Not that the officiating was bad, but how this result needs to be make some change. Like, it needs to be what's pushing for a change in officiating. It's just ridiculous. I'm sorry, you shouldn't have to be fined to try to get somebody to officially say, hey, we need to try to change how we call games and how we're reviewing and we're replaying and looking at the replay official. I just don't understand. But regardless, of course, Baylor picked up a win, stay undefeated. Texas Tech got their 3rd loss of the year. So, Desmond, it looks like both our schools have the same record, except the strength of schedule maybe is a little bit different either way.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, I
your
guess
3 losses are
we still did lose to 2 ranked teams, but yes, your ranked teams are a lot better.
I mean, your 3 losses are Oklahoma, Arizona, and Baylor, and ours are Alabama, Clemson, and Auburn. So
yeah, I know. I don't know why we lost to Arizona, but it's probably because we didn't have Duffy not playing.
Either way, you have to be. One thing I did see, and looking at the highlights and looking at the game, is your defense puts you in a position.
3 turnovers. Our defense honestly, our defense is powering our offense this year, I think. Besides TJ Vasher,
I'll get to him in a second. We'll get to him in a second. But I think the defense puts you in a position to win, but then you can't have these unforced errors with Duffy just making
they missed coverages at the worst times, giving up 30 yards in overtime, and it's just like I was watching the replays, and I think it was like 3rd down or something, and we had the quarterback, we had him. I think missed a tackle. He steps up, just throws a bomb, missed covers, 40 yards. Next play they score. I'm just like, you can't have that, man. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you, and it just was like, oh, you pick off Charlie Brewer for Baylor 3 times, and then after every interception you got on defense, Duffy comes out there and he throws some slant, and it just goes wide or goes, not even to the man, his first read or his second read, goes to some random guy who he was looking at. He's open, and it's not even close. But it's like, you can't do that as a young quarterback. And Duffy is what, a sophomore, right? Is that correct? Sophomore?
I think he's a junior. Yeah.
Again, as a junior, you can't do that. You should have enough experience, enough playing experience, that you should be able to make good throws and such. Do you think that Coach Wells' play calling had to deal with that? You mentioned it last week that you liked what he did, but this week, did he go back to something you didn't like?
I think it's okay. Here, let me mention something real quick. I just want to say our running game's improving. Sir Roderick Thompson, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. I told you, in the Big 12, having a good running game helps, and this guy's been insane all year long. I want to say I played quarterback a little bit in high school, and I like Jack Duffy. I did at military school and a little bit at St. John. I know how to work with the quarterback, and I just want to say that I like Jet Duffy. I think he has a lot of potential. But his throws aren't accurate. They're not accurate, and they're not tight. They don't have that tight spiral. He kind of just slobs it up there, and either the receiver's wide open or the receiver's just gonna mostly likely TJ Vasher, RG Turner are just gonna, since they're so tall, they're just gonna grab it. But they're not tight. I think that's the problem he has is he tries to fit into tight spaces, but he can't. But I think he's improving. Um, he had that one insane throw to TJ.
in the end zone.
Even then I don't think that was the greatest throw. I just think that TJ made a good play on it.
That was a outrageously amazing play. And you know what? I
Yeah,
mentioned this to you we were having a conversation a little bit, how TJ Vasher, had he committed to like Bam, or if he had gotten better D1 offers. I'm not saying Texas Tech isn't a bad D1 offer. I'm just saying if he had been put in a position where he could go to an offense that relies solely on him, like look at Jerry Jeudy, look at Ruggs at Bama, look at Etienne, and I'm trying to think of Clemson's wide receiver. Something I can't remember. Or even look here at A&M with you have Rogers, Smith. You have all these guys, really big playmakers. TJ Vasher is TG and Oklahoma, CD Lamb. You have playmakers at each university. Texas Tech, TJ Vasher needs to be used more. He needs to be an opportunity to make those type of plays. He's capable. I was walking back. We had just gotten out of Kyle Field, and somebody said, "Hey, Bama or Baylor's down by 3, or is that overtime?" It was overtime, and I was like, "Okay, let me pull it up on my phone." And right as I pulled it up, I'm watching TJ Vasher make this catch, and I'm like, "Excuse me, what type of catch was this? Like, like what a catch!" And then the commentators are just like, "Oh, it's in a catch by TJ Vasher." And they're not sure if it's gonna be a touchdown or not. It's like, give him some credit where credit is due. That guy laid out and saved his quarterback from a terrible throw, made it into a great situation. Put yourself in a situation to win the ball game. Regardless, I think that's enough ranting from Texas Tech Baylor.
Yeah. I should say last thing is this stat stands out to me because Jet Duffy is kind of a mobile quarterback, but when you have 12 carries for -3 yards, that's not gonna cut it.
Oh, that's bad. That's just bad. That's the easiest way to describe it. But hopefully, what's not bad, what's hopefully not bad is the Iowa State Texas Tech game that's coming up this week. And Desmond, we saw what happened last year. We both said that Texas Tech was going to get the win over Iowa State. They took a big lead, and then Iowa State just used their nice truck and got the win and came back. Okay, is this an understatement to say if Duffy plays decent, the Texas Tech Red Raiders will win, or is that too much to ask for? Is that too much to ask for?
I think Duffy he needs to keep playing the way he's been playing. Just stop forcing throws he doesn't need to force. Yeah, the turnovers killed him because the defense is doing their job. But if he forces a throw and throws an interception, then what's the point of the defense even getting this pick in the first place?
Exactly. So I think if Duffy limits turnovers, uses his legs properly, has a good passing game, I think that will happen. I think they'll do it. I've got Texas Tech. Surprise, Texas Tech winning over Iowa State 38-28, so by 10. Desmond, what about you?
Yeah, George, I had Texas Tech win this one 35-21. I wanted to go a little bit high scoring, but I just don't know. I don't know how they'll respond to, losing to Baylor, how close it was, and the officiating. I just want to see how the game goes.
Well, you'll get your chance to watch that game and get your opinions early, as that's an 11 o'clock kickoff in Lubbock on FS1. And mind you, Desmond, Iowa State is a touchdown favorite going into, so Texas is it's a home underdog, which usually, I believe this year, home underdogs have a 500 record or higher winning percentage. So I guess that's good for us and good for you. All right, let's get to the top 5. Last few weeks we've said who our top 5 is compared to the AP top 5. And so Desmond, I think after this last week, again, Ohio State was off, and we were able to see some distinguishability between some of these teams. I want to hear your top 5. I'll say mine, and we can compare. Who do you have in your top 5?
I'm gonna keep Ohio State at number 1. I don't think it's fair to move them out just because they did have a game. They still haven't showed me anything that they're not to the ability of what they are. Number two, I'm gonna keep at Alabama. They got that win over A&M. It's not a bad team. Um, I'm gonna put Oklahoma at number three. I think Oklahoma's defense has improved. They did a really good job against Sam Ellinger and Texas. Um, they got that big win. Offense is always going to be elite. You know, Jalen Hurts, CeeDee Lamb, they're insane. I'm gonna put Clemson at four. Again, they don't really play anybody as they do every single year. They don't play anybody in their schedule. They played A&M. Okay, A&M's okay. They're pretty average. They're an okay team. Who else do they play after that though? Syracuse isn't good anymore. Who do they play?
Desmond, you're hearing crickets. There's a reason why I'm being silent because I truly don't know. I don't know who else they
No,
play.
I know that's I know. And then at five, LSU, which I've had LSU at five, and you had Georgia at five, and I said no, and that is why I don't have Georgia at five, as you saw last week.
So Desmond, I want to ask you, is there between 5 and 6? Is there a very close margin? And if so, who would be number 6 in your book?
Okay, if I had to choose a number 6, I probably would say Wisconsin.
Okay. So
yeah, I agree with Wisconsin at 6.
Okay, so for me, I have Ohio State just like you as 1. I don't think it's fair to move them up or down because they didn't play, but also they've just shown that they are the best team, in my opinion. Number 2, I actually have LSU. I moved them up. I had Bama last week at number 2, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I had Bama at number 2 last week. I've got LSU at number 2. Seeing Bama in person and being able to evaluate them as such, I just don't. They're good, but I just don't think they're the best team in the nation. I don't think they're number 2 either. Something about that. Something about LSU just kind of is just dominating. I've never seen them run an offense like this since Les Miles was there, and even when he was there, they've never run an offense like this. They're moving. Their defense concerns me, but I think they can outscore anybody. And if you can outscore anybody, you're gonna win. As long as your defense plays decent. I mean, look at Johnny Manziel when he was here. That A&M defense was horrible. But what did Manziel do? He just ran over. He outscored everybody he played. Now, granted, he had some losses here and there, but he outscored everybody. And therefore, the defense just had to make 1 or 2 stops, and you win the ball game. Ohio State 1, LSU 2, move Bama down 1 spot to 3. I think they're still good enough to be in the playoff, be good enough to win a national championship. Just right there behind LSU. Number 4, surprise, I've got Wisconsin. Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin, the way they've dominated this year in the Big Ten. Yes, they may have not played the big elites in the Big Ten, but I think they stand a chance to make it to the playoff if they can get some wins here in the Big Ten, especially with their first opportunity against Ohio State shortly. That means, and you're like, where's Clemson? So I've got 5 is Clemson, but between Clemson and Oklahoma being my 6th team, very, very close. I mean, within maybe 5 points if we were doing this on a point scale, within very, very close. And I think the only reason why I've moved Oklahoma down and moved Clemson down and Wisconsin into the top 4 is because Clemson, again, the schedule isn't there. They're going to win an ACC title. I'm not confident with them yet. I need to see them start blowing out opponents to where they are a good team. When you only beat North Carolina by 1 point and it has to be on a 2-point conversion that's missed, I'm sorry. I can't put faith in there. So Ohio State 1, LSU 2, Bama 3, Wisconsin 4, Clemson 5, and Oklahoma 6. Oklahoma did move down after their loss to Texas last week. I have them at 5, but they should have won by more. It shouldn't have been a touchdown game. It should have been won by more. The way that they played, the way that they commanded the game. They had 2 turnovers in the first and a half quarters. First quarter and then roughly through the second half of the second quarter. They had 2 turnovers in the red zone. you can't have that when you're playing Texas. Okay, granted, Texas defense has gotten better, but still, that game should have been 41-27, not 34-27 at least. Um, Either way, I don't know why I'm talking about the Red River rivalry. I'm an Aggie, not a Longhorn. So let's get to our next little segment before we have to keep moving it forward here. So Desmond, um, one of the things that the college football playoff looks at is these big games and kind of start uh, ruling out teams that would have had a chance, but don't anymore because they lost. So let's look at the top 10 and let's kind of go through games that you think are the most important. Like if this team wins that game, they're probably going to be in the playoff or they stand the biggest chance. They've done enough to get there. First off, Alabama. We'll just go in numerical order off of the AP top 10. So number one is Alabama. I think their biggest game, and I don't think there's going to be any disagreement here. Number two, LSU right now. That game has always come down to kind of deciding the SEC West. If it hasn't been Alabama Auburn, it's always been Alabama LSU. I think as long as both teams keep winning, they're in good shape. What about you?
I agree. There's really no disagreement there.
I think let's keep moving here. Number two, LSU. I think their biggest game
Yeah.
is going to be flipped. I think Alabama. You could almost argue the week before they play Auburn, so that's next week they play Auburn. That could bring up some interesting because if they do lose that game, then you've got some interesting dynamics that happen at the top of the SEC. Regardless, I still think LSU Bama's the most important game for them. Let's look at number three. Let's look at Clemson. Who did you put down for Clemson?
I put down Louisville.
Okay, so this
Louisville right now is 4-2. I was gonna say Wake Forest, but I just think Louisville, especially since they're in the same conference.
Yeah, I had the same dilemma. I think Louisville, they've kind of been playing really well all of a sudden, and they stand the best chance to maybe that trap game. We always talk about one game maybe possibly losing. But for me, it's got to be Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest will be ranked by the time Clemson plays them, which is this week 12, so that's 2 weeks before the season ends. And I just think because of that, I'll take that as the biggest game. Number four, Ohio State. Who's their biggest game?
Wisconsin.
Same. I had the same as well. I think that game's going to decide the Big Ten because even both of them are in the different divisions. So, but even if they both make it through their division, we'll get a rematch of that in the Big Ten championship game. And I think the same team that wins in the regular season will win in the championship game if that happens. Number five, Oklahoma. Who's their biggest game remaining?
I said Baylor.
Any reason? Because you want to see the Baylor Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game? You want to jump on that Baylor train?
No, because Baylor is ranked and they are undefeated and have been playing well, and I think that they're the best on the schedule because they've already played Texas. I think Texas is the only team that would be close to Baylor.
Do you think Baylor's going to be undefeated by the time they play Oklahoma, or do you think they could have a loss and that game me a little bit less meaningful?
I think they'll be undefeated.
Okay. And again, we pushed it last week. We're pushing it this week. Game day, come back to Waco. Go back to Waco for that Oklahoma Baylor game. I will go to game day if it is there for Oklahoma Baylor. I will go to game day. I'm calling it right now. I will drive to Waco. I will drive an hour and a half to Waco to go to game day. All right. So make it happen. Number six, Wisconsin. We just talked about it. Their biggest game, Ohio State. I would think you would agree as well, Desmond.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 7, Penn State. What's their biggest game?
I also said it was Ohio State.
Oh, okay. What about their game against Michigan? You don't think that really means much? Could be a potential for them to lose?
Yeah, but Michigan's just think about it. If Penn State beats Michigan, yeah. But if they beat Ohio State, you know what I'm saying? There's a difference. There's a different reading to it.
See, there's some thought there. I think I put Michigan down just because it comes first, and of course it's this weekend. And I just think that if they do lose for some reason, Of course, that game against Ohio State may not really mean much because they're going to have one loss. It's going to be to a Michigan team that probably isn't going to make it to the Big Ten championship game, let alone get 9 wins. So I feel like it could mean a lot. But yes, you're right. You could have potentially that probably is a bigger game, Penn State, Ohio State. What about Notre Dame, number 8? Who's their biggest game remaining?
Well, I said the only ranked team left on the schedule, which is Michigan.
Okay, yeah, I did too. I mean, and that's on the road in the big house, so that could cause some potential interesting factors there. And then number 9, Florida, their biggest game they have. They have a loss. Of course, they lost to LSU. Who's their biggest game remaining?
I said that their biggest game remaining was against Georgia.
And if we were doing the other way, number 10's biggest game, which is Georgia.
Actually, I changed it just to switch it up. I said Auburn.
Oh, I was going to say Auburn as well, actually, but I thought, no, Georgia's biggest game is against Florida because should they beat Florida, we could have them back in the conversation for the playoff. Not saying they're not out of the conversation, they're still in the top 10, but that loss to South
They have
Carolina
a tough schedule left, kind of. They had to play Kentucky, they had to play Florida, then they had to play ranked Missouri, then they had to play ranked Auburn, then they had to play A&M, not a bad team, but yeah, they have a few tough games coming up.
So, if they do run the table, let's say they do run the table, could we? And they're 11-1. That would mean that they would technically have the tiebreaker over Florida for the SEC East. So they would be playing the SEC championship game. So they beat Bama in the SEC championship game. Would you put them in the playoffs?
I would see them making the playoffs
with a 3-point loss to South Carolina team that is probably not going to get more than 8 wins.
Well, think about it. If they go undefeated for the rest of the season, let's look at this. If they do go undefeated, they would have beaten
Auburn.
Notre Dame. They would have beaten Notre Dame. Throughout the season, they would have been Notre Dame, Florida, a ranked Missouri, Auburn, and Alabama. And with one loss, and they would have been SEC champions. I don't see them not making the playoffs if that happened.
All right, because there has been some conversation that even with their loss to South Carolina, people may not necessarily put them in.
No. If they go undefeated, they would make the playoffs.
We got some big games this week. We got 3 ranked matchups. 12 Oregon at 25 Washington. 16th ranked Michigan headed to State College for number 7 Penn State, and then Arizona State 17th ranked going to Salt Lake City to face the Utes of Utah, ranked 13th. We were going to talk about the NBA, but I think for sake of time, we are going to skip that and move forward. It is college football season after all, and the NBA is kind of, not quite started yet. We're still in the preseason. But Desmond, I guess we'll say one thing. Give me your potential MVP, title champions, and who you think could be a surprise contender off the top of your head.
Wow. Wow. Okay, for title, I'm going. Oof. All right, this is just based off stats alone. If I would say title, probably be stats alone, not who I want to, or I think stats alone. Lakers.
Okay.
76ers.
Ooh. Okay. What about your MVP?
MVP.
Giannis?
No, I think MVP this year.
Kawhi, LeBron.
I don't think it. I honestly think.
KD.
I think it's Dame's year. I think Damian's gonna win the MVP.
In Portland?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And then what about a contender that might be who'd be a surprise contender? Or is that the 76ers, as you mentioned?
A surprise contender? Oof.
Yeah. Not for the MVP, but for the championship.
Okay, surprise contender for the championship. I'm going to have to say This is so hard. I put on the spot because I know like oof. I'm I'm gonna surprise.
Come on, Desmond. Just make a decision. Make a decision.
I'm gonna say the Jazz.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
With Donovan
you got
Mitchell.
you got Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Bojan, Gobert. You got Joe Ingles coming off the bench. You have Exum.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
Jeff Green. Yeah, I
For
think
me,
I'm not that surprised.
okay. For me, MVP. I gotta go with what the people are saying. I gotta go with Giannis. He's gonna go back to
Again,
back. Title. Kind of like you. I was trusting the process last year, and I think I gotta trust the process again.
yeah,
I like the 76ers, but I also like the team out of California that's going to do the best. So,
Clippers.
that's the Lakers, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Kings. One of those four is going to get to the finals, okay?
Definitely the Kings.
I'm not going to be more specific because that gives me a better chance to be correct.
Boo.
And then my surprise contender is going to be somebody that, you're going to be like, who? Excuse me? I don't think
I said the Jazz.
I don't think this team is going to get to the finals, but I think they'll make the playoffs. It's from zero to hero. I've got the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, Ja Morant.
Oh my
All
gosh.
you need to know. Ja Morant. They play the Pelicans. Okay, Pelicans have Zion, right? They play the Pelicans like 3 times this season.
George.
Ja
The
Morant
Grizzlies?
is going to win all 3 matchups. He's going to lead that team to some success. They're going to get the 8 or 7 seed in the playoffs. They're probably going to lose in the first round, but it doesn't matter. They are going to go from 0 to the playoffs. 100%.
No,
Call my
I don't
bluff
agree.
if you want.
I
Call my
don't
bluff if you
agree.
want.
George, the only other person they have is probably like Lucianus and Jaren Jackson.
So?
And maybe Jay Crowder. No, I don't know. I mean, I
Look at what
respect
the
your
Raptors
decision.
did last year.
I don't
Look what the
agree with
Raptors did
the
last year.
Raptors had Kyle Lowry, Marc Gasol, Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green, Pascal Siakam, Serge Ibaka. That's not a bad team.
I wouldn't have known
They had
half. I wouldn't have known
they had
half
Joseph coming
those
off the bench.
guys.
That's
I
not
wouldn't
a
have
bad
known
team.
half. I
Those
wouldn't
were
have known
all
half.
good
I,
players.
I
Danny
wouldn't
Green,
have.
you don't know Kyle Lowry, great point guard. Danny Green,
Yes, he's in there in
one
Toronto,
chips with the Spurs.
100%.
Kawhi Leonard, arguably one of the best defensive/offensive players in the game. Pascal Siakam goes insane, most improved player. Marc Gasol has been in the league for a long time.
All right,
Serge
all right. You
Ibaka.
know what? I'm calling a timeout. I'm calling a timeout. We're gonna table this conversation. We will talk about the NBA later. So just that's an incentive for listeners to keep listening. We'll talk about the NBA later. We got to get to our college football picks before we run out. Before we make this podcast too long. All right, Desmond. I'm gonna table that conversation. We're gonna keep moving forward. All I'm saying is the Memphis Grizzlies are gonna surprise a few people. Ja Morant is for real. More for real than Zion Williamson. Okay? Call it right there. Moving forward. All right. Speaking of moving forward, Desmond, we need to move forward on our upsets. We are not doing so hot. All right. I've lost 3 upsets in a row. 3. I'm 3-4 for the year. You're 3-3. What? I got to get back to 500. I don't
Who
know
did
if
I choose last week?
You chose Iowa over Penn State, and they did not.
Oh yeah,
not convert.
I remember. I regretted that.
All right, so let's make these quick. We'll make these picks pretty quick. That way we can get towards the end of our conversation here. All right,
I think this week I should, since I missed one episode. I think I'm gonna have 2 upset picks this week.
Okay.
So we can match.
Okay.
And they're both insane.
Oh. All right. I bet I can guess one of them, but I'll wait and see. Here we go. The first game we're going to talk about is the college game day game. Kind of mentioned it earlier. Michigan, Penn State. Desmond, are you familiar with the Penn State whiteout that they do? They always have one game of the year where they do the whiteout.
But it's not against usually Ohio State.
No, actually, this year they're doing it against Michigan. So I don't know. It's either against Michigan or Ohio State, but this year they chose Michigan. Either way, that place is going to be rocking. I love watching that game on TV. It is so cool. It is so cool to watch. I wish that would be something that more schools do. Instead of blackouts, do whiteouts, because that's just something that's so, it's so unique and it's so interesting to see all these white just towels and shirts and everything. Either way, I think game day could have gone to like Dallas for the SMU game or gone to Utah for that ranked matchup. Either way, they're gonna get what they came to see: a good Penn State team and a not so great Michigan team. I've got the Penn State Nittany Lions 45-28. Desmond, make it quick and let's go.
George, I'm gonna knock your socks off here. I think Michigan's gonna bounce back this week. I have them getting the upset, 31-28. That's my first upset pick.
Wow.
I told you, George. I told you they're insane.
What was the score prediction you had?
31-28.
Wow. Okay. All right. It wouldn't be too big. I mean, they're ranked. It's not like you're picking an unranked team to go into the whiteout conditions and win. But I'll just say this, Desmond. Of like different traditions and things that schools do, Penn State's whiteout winning percentage for the whiteout game is like 80%. So 85%. So good luck trying to get that upset right. Either way, let's keep moving forward. All right, Big 12 clash in Stillwater, Oklahoma, as the 18th ranked Baylor Bears travel to face the Cowboys. Desmond, we've heard this story before. An undefeated travels to a Big 12 area, specifically Stillwater, and they hope to come out with a win. You know what? It always happens. Always get the win. And the Baylor train rolls on. Toot, toot. I've got the Baylor Bears by a touchdown. 45-35.
I agree. Baylor's going to win this game 41-24.
Ooh, big win for the Baylor Bears. Based off of what you saw last week.
Yep.
All right, moving forward, we've got an ACC battle that, should be more intriguing than what the records show. This is North Carolina Tar Heels take on Blacksburg, Virginia, and head to the Virginia Tech Hokies house. North Carolina is 3-3. Virginia Tech is 4-2. Virginia Tech has shown they can compete in the ACC. Finally got some ACC wins under their belt. But so has North Carolina. Took Clemson to the edge. They're coming off a bye week. For me, Carolina Blue, Michael Jordan, North Carolina. I can't think of any other good things from North Carolina, but it's enough to get me to pick
Mac Brown.
Mac Brown, but I didn't want to say that one because he's more of a horns guy. But I've got the North Carolina Tar Heels 31-28.
I agree, George. I think that North Carolina's going to win this game 17-13.
Ooh, so low scoring, huh?
Low scoring.
That game is at 2:30, and it's a 3.5-point spread for the Tar Heels. All right, we got 5 games to get through. Let's get through them. LSU, Mississippi State. CBS's game of the week, and I don't know why they chose this one because Mississippi State, don't want to listen to those stupid cowbells. Either way, this Tiger team, I mentioned it, might be the best team and have the best offense since a team in the Les Miles era. LSU's going to, those cowbells ain't going to stop them now. Coach O has the squad rolling. I got LSU 50, Mississippi State 35. High-scoring game in the SEC.
I agree. I have LSU rolling over this team 42-17.
And, so that should be a good one, but you're going to want to watch that one on mute because of the cowbells. Either way, all right, we go to Dallas for the 19th ranked SMU Mustangs as they take on the Temple Owls. Okay, Desmond, I want to say something. The American Conference might just be the most competitive conference in college football outside of the SEC, maybe even including the SEC. You've got 4 undefeated teams in conference play. Doesn't include UCF because UCF lost to Cincinnati. So, 4 different teams that we've kind of seen before. They're new. That would be SMU, Temple, somebody else, and somebody else. I didn't get the chance to write all those down. Doesn't matter because SMU is going to remain undefeated. It won't be easy, but I've got them fending off the Owls for the win, making the Owls fly home back to their nest. 34-27 Mustangs.
I agree, George. SMU is going to keep it going. Pony up, baby. SMU is going to win this game 24-10.
All right, that game's at 2:30. A 2:30 kick from Dallas on ESPN2 with a 7.5-point favorite for the SMU Mustangs. All right, let's get to the first 2 Pac-12 are the two Pac-12 ranked matchups. Okay, both teams that are ranked. All four teams are ranked. Oregon, Washington, Arizona State, and Utah. Okay, they are all ranked, and they're the four teams in the Pac-12 that are ranked, and they're all playing each other. So two teams are going to get unranked and lose this week. The first one, Oregon, Washington, one of these two matchups is going to result in an upset, and I've got Oregon and Washington not being that one. Oregon wins big. I mean big. 42-17. What about you, Desmond?
Again, George, I told you I was going to knock your socks off. I have the other upset going to Washington, 24-21 field goal late minute.
Ooh, okay. It wouldn't be that big of an upset. Again, Washington ranked, Oregon ranked. So, and the final that other Pac-12 matchup, I said one of them would be an upset. I didn't say it would be Oregon Washington.
No.
Sometimes in the Pacific 12 conference, you got to root for some people that you like. And Desmond, Herm Edwards, you making me jump on that Arizona State train, and I don't like it because I don't think it's something in me just doesn't like it. But this week I've got to do it, and Utah is going to be done in the Pac-12 Hunger Games, as you call it, where everyone's just beating up on everybody to try to get a win and try to make it to the conference championship. I got the Arizona State Sun Devils 40, Utah 33 on the road in a huge upset. Utah's a 14-point favorite at home. Not today, my friends. Not today. What about you, Desmond?
Well, George, you already know I had to choose my small school. You already know. Arizona State's winning this game, 30-34.
Okay.
Small school from last year, as I mean.
Oh, correct. I think our viewers realize that, and if they don't, they go and listen to the other ones. All right, Desmond, I want to ask some rhetorical questions because we got Clemson, third-ranked Clemson taking on Louisville on the road. Could this be the trap road game that Clemson loses? Are the Cardinals capable of pulling off the ultimate David versus Goliath upset? Will the Tigers look sloppy and sleepy for an 11 a.m. kick? Should we even be asking ourselves these questions? We'll find out on the next episode of As the World Turns. Not a soap opera here, but I think we should possibly be asking us these questions. But again, because the Clemson Tigers are who they are, they might as well call them the Cardiac Tigers. I think they find a way to just inch out the Louisville Cardinals, 34-33. Desmond, what about you?
I just don't see it. I think Clemson's gonna win this game. They're gonna stay undefeated. They're gonna win this game 35-7. I just don't see Louisville beating them.
Well, 24-point favorite, Clemson. I think you're seeing what most of the country's going to be able to see. All right, let's get to the scary good game. And Desmond, we both covered yet again. We are 2-0 in the last 2 weeks covering, so we're doing all right. If we were going to put money at Vegas, we'd be doing all right. Okay, now, hear me out. This game I picked, Rice and UTSA. People will now argue, George, you picked the two worst teams in the Conference USA. Rice is winless on the year. UTSA is horrible. Why would this be your scary good game? These teams are not good. But you know what? When you see Rice as a road favorite, a 4-point road favorite, that's a reason to be excited. That's a reason to pick it as a very good game. Okay? And for me, that just boggles my mind. So because I think Vegas might actually be onto something, I've got Rice to cover. What about you, Desmond?
Well, I'm gonna keep this streak that we have going on. So I'm gonna say Rice covers too.
Just to hope that we're 3-0 in 3 games.
Yeah.
I cannot believe Rice is a 4-point favorite. Shout out to you, Owls. You kept games close, but if you really go out there and get your first win of the season in San Antonio, man, I'm not going to put anything on the line there. I'm not that confident. But Rice, you're going to cover. You're going to cover. I believe in you. We're sending good vibes from the Fifth Quarter podcast. We're sending good vibes, right, Desmond? Good vibes.
Of course, always good vibes. Always good vibes, George.
Well, speaking of good vibes, the shirt finally came in with as I mentioned earlier, with Wyoming. They lost by 4. Okay, I bet if I'd had the shirt, they would have won by 4. Either way, only the second loss of the year. not too shabby. They take on New Mexico. And you know what, Desmond? I'm calling it. Hashtag, that's a Wyoming win. I don't know if that's the official, marketing. Go ahead. University of Wyoming, take that from me. Hashtag, that's a Wyoming win. I'm okay with that. You know what? We're starting a movement, Desmond. Starting a movement. Wyoming College Station people. Starting a movement. Wyoming's a 19.5-point favorite. Take them any day of the week. Wyoming wins. Big. What about Houston? I know they travel to Connecticut. What's looking up for them?
Well, George, they lost to Cincinnati last game. But next game they have against Connecticut. I believe Connecticut is 1-5. I think they're going to win this game 35-17.
Is that the toilet bowl of the American? Houston versus UConn.
Possibility.
I mean, both teams tanking for nothing. You don't get any draft picks or anything in the NFL or in college, not in the NFL, in college. It's not the tank bowl like the Dolphins-Redskins was last week. Man, that was pathetic. That was just awful. I don't know if you watched that game, Desmond, but if you didn't, you saved yourself 3 hours of time. I watched the highlights, so I didn't watch the game, but I watched the highlights. It was not worth it. Glad I didn't watch it. All right. Well, you know what? We're already over time, so we're going to cut that at the end of this episode. We'll be back next week, and we'll have a special guest with us, ESPN NFL Nation writer Ben Baby, who writes for ESPN and covers the Bengals, will be with us. He was previously the Dallas Morning News beat reporter for A&M Athletics, so he'll be with us to talk all about college football, and we'll talk some NFL as well because we'll have him on. Either way, make sure you tune in and subscribe so you don't miss out on that opportunity to listen to that episode. For now, episode 28, signing off from the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm George Koff in College Station, and for my colleague in Lubbock,
Desmond McLaughlin,
saying so long and catch you next time. Aggies, Wreck'Em Tech, adios.